Hi everybody, welcome to another program of Yeshiva Classroom, and we're here with a very informative program today, so I hope you can stay with us and concentrate a little bit, because we're going to cover a wide range of topics, why good people suffer, and a lot of great things, the purpose of our life. So here we're going to start off with geology, right? Geology, what a farce it is. Let me tell you about geology, especially now when they're uncovering these dinosaurs and raptors, and they're 8 million years of age and 13 million years of age. Ridiculous. You know, what had happened was that the flood, when at the time of Noah, which is recorded in the Bible, in the Torah, the Old Testament, known to the Gentile people, but it's our only testament because we were there. Thousands of people, 3 million people were there, and they heard the Torah being given with all its implications and all its information, from science to astrology to God speaking to the Jewish people. It's the only religion, quote unquote, where God speaks to the people. None of the other religions say that God speaks to them, but Judaism said God spoke to them. And one of the things that we have to understand, it's like a symphony. You know, you can take the percussions and the strings and the drums and all these instruments out, but to make sense, you have to look at the whole picture, the whole symphony when it plays together. And we take out, for instance, this in the book of Bereshit, chapter 7, verse 14. You should write these notes down so you can go over them. But basically, over there it said, you know, this is when Noah was in the ark, and it began raining, and it rained for 40 days and 40 nights, and the fountains of the deep were split asunder. The fountains of the deep were split asunder. And that meant that there were volcanoes in the ocean bed and on the land that spewed out this molten lava, blocked out the sun, and encased and entrapped the dinosaurs and these raptors and all of these Noah times, when they were aplenty, and they were encased in this molten rock, which hardened, and that's how we find them. We find those raptors, those dinosaurs, in the rock that they were embedded in. And even you find two of these creatures fighting each other, but they were encased with the rock and lava, and they died instantaneously. They died instantaneously. And you think, well, how do we have the skeleton remains? Look how big, look how old they are. They were not oxidized. They did not die on the face of the earth. If so, after all these years, they would have disintegrated. They would have disintegrated. But because they were encased in this rock molten mass, they were able to be found in an intact form with the skeleton all intact. So what did the geologists do? You see, what they did was they looked at different rock, Jurassic and Cambria and what have you, and you know, nonchalantly, arbitrarily, they said, you know, let's try to make some kind of an age determination of these rocks, because what have you is that we can't carbon date. We can't carbon date the rock, even though carbon dating is a farce also, and I'll explain that later. But the point is that we can't carbon date the rock. So what do? We say, look, we'll take rocks, all the different types of rocks, and we'll dissect them, and we'll see if they have what kind of a fossil embedded in the rock. And they said arbitrarily, let's say because this has no fossils in the rock, this is the oldest fossil rock that is around. And being, they said, let's make this, whatever, they have Cambrian or pre-Cambrian, let's make this the oldest rock, and we'll make it 100 million years of age. They can't, it's arbitrary. They just say, let's do 100 million, 200 million, whatever they want. And so they said, if we find a dinosaur in this rock, being that we said the rock is 100 million years of age, then the dinosaur is 100 million years old. Simple as that. That's what they did. They perpetrated a farce, and the whole world believes it. When we know, the Jewish people know, that as a result of the flood, everything was encased, and that's why we find these the dinosaurs all over the planet of the earth, because the earth just was split asunder, and all kinds of vegetation was floated around the whole earth, and it was just a whole mishmash. And the fossils were encased, and that's why we find those large prehistoric, seemingly, that dinosaurs, or they must be very old. They must be millions and millions and millions. But we know that the Earth is 5,783 years old. That's all it is. And you know, what they did is, they recently, write this down, in Israel they found a cave of horrors. It's called the Cave of Horrors, Horrors. And it was in it's one part of Israel, and they said, you know what, they examined everything there, and they had skeleton remains. And one of the remains had a bag of coins in them. And they were minted at the time of Bar Kokhba's revolution, which was the 70 years common era. They were minted. So they died at that time, these skeleton remains. And in addition, when this news came out, I saw it on Arutz Sheva, Arutz, A-R-U-T-Z, Sheva, and when it came out, they said they also found a basket made of grass, and they carbon dated that, and they said that is like 2,000 years before this 70-year skeleton remains. So we're talking about 4,000 years ago. The people were in the Copper Age, I believe, and they used the grasses to make carrying utensils. And right away, in 2 days hence, from the time it appeared, they took it off, and they said, and they also found an old grass basket. A very old grass basket at the same time in this remains, in the remains. So they're saying that it's very old, but even though the experts carbon dated it and placed it in the Copper Age, yet they refuse to say that because they found these coins which are dated 70 Common Era. So you see, carbon dated is not infallible. You know, we don't know the temperatures and the amount of bacteria that were present thousands of years ago. Were they in the same quality or quantity? And what were the temperatures? And when do the temperatures act the optimum time to carbon disintegrate, carbon-14 disintegrate. So you hear this is an example of how their carbon dating is all screwed. So your best book is your Torah. Now that's not so much for geology and geology, and I want to go on to other things in the purpose of life. And as we said, what is the purpose of life? We have in the Bible Adam, who was driven out of the garden because he disrespected God's directions, and he could not, because he ate of the tree of knowledge that gave him temptation. Because prior to that, he wasn't bothered with temptation. Why was he tempted by this tree of knowledge? Because it was knowledge, it was perfection, it was holiness, something that he wanted to grow in. And that was his purpose in the Garden of Eden. He wanted to grow perfect during his lifetime so he can turn that in for a good mark in the next world, in the soul world. And as a matter of fact, write this down. In Numbers, there's 5 books of Moses, right? Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. Now, in Numbers, in chapter 23, verse 9 and 10, it says over there that the prophet Bilam said, "Let my soul die the death of the righteous. Let my end be like theirs." Again, let my soul die the death of the righteous. Let my end be like theirs. In other words, we have a soul. We have a soul. It says in Jehelas, Ecclesiastes, chapter 12, verse 7. What does it say over there? It says, the soul returns to God. The soul returns to God who gave it. The soul returns to God who gave it. And hopefully we will have a soul that passed the test and was able to prepare himself in the anteroom, so to speak, so to get into the next world, the soul world. If he gets a passing grade, he needs a passing grade. And this is what the Bilam said. It's throughout the Bible. There is a next world. There is a soul world, and that's what we're striving for. We're striving for, even though we don't know it, to attain that happy place. And we prepare in this world with praise of God, praise of Hashem, so that in the next world our soul will be able to praise God. Now you say, well, what great deal is praising God? But to the soul is very important. And let me tell you about a story that is brought down. Basically, it's like a peasant, the body, marrying a princess, the soul. And what happened? The body, the peasant, in his hovel, wanted to please the princess, and he gave her all kinds of fresh bread and delectable meats, and she was not happy. She was not happy because she missed the home of the palace with the mirrored walls and and all the sophisticated trappings that went with it, and she was unhappy. You see, man has a body and a soul. God breathed into the soul, into the nostrils. God breathed his nostrils. God breathed his soul from him into his nostrils. That's, I believe, in Genesis, Bereshit, I think 3:12. But don't quote me. Check it out. God breathed into his nostrils. Why nostrils? We'll go into that later on. But God breathed into the nostrils of a man, and he breathed a soul into that man. And there's a conflict between the soul and the body, the physical body, because the soul can only live in a vehicle like a body, and that's how it went. And basically, we want to say that, I mean, I'm taking these words out of Rabbi Miller, Victor Miller, in his books that he's written, very plain and simple English. Rabbi Sachs, Naphtali Glick, and Rashi, and I put a little bit of my own spin on it. But basically, where were we holding now? That there is in this world a entity, a human entity, and it wants to strive for certain things. It's called a mava. In the Talmud, it's called a mava, a searcher. He keeps on searching. He doesn't know what he's searching for, but he keeps on going. Whatever he finds, it's not enough. He's never happy. Not like a cow, give him a pasture with a bale of hay and green grass. He's happy. But man wants to keep on searching. In addition, he wants to accumulate. He wants to accumulate. If he has, again, so what is he searching for? He's searching for the unknown. He's searching for godliness. His soul is interested in attaining the soul world. In addition, man wants to accumulate. He doesn't know why he wants to accumulate. If he has 100, he wants 200. And also, he wants to be happy. He searches for happiness. He goes on a cruise. And what it is, searching for accumulation means accumulation of good deeds and the performance of the mitzvahs. That's what he's really searching for. The soul is trying to lead him in that direction. And then the other thing is, he's searching for glory. In other words, to impress people that he won this race, or he won the election, or he's very popular, and he wants to be glory. He wants to have glory. But really, he wants to have glory in the next world, where all his deeds are delivered or shown in color to all the assembled and to God's presence. And this is what the glory that he's looking for. This is what the glory that he's looking for. So we spoke a little bit about that, the purpose of life, and we gave many examples. We gave many examples. They being the fact that Moshe was gathered into his people. It says in the Bible when he died, and he was buried singularly. He was buried singularly. He didn't be entombed in his father's graves. So there's many sources that teach us that there's a next world, and this is what we strive for. And I want to touch on another subject. Why do good people suffer, and why do bad people seemingly have good fortune in this world? And because after all, it says in the Bible, in Exodus chapter 34, verse 5, 6, 7, and 8. Says, Alasham, Kel Rachum V'Chanun, Erech Apayim, Rav Chesed V'Yemes, Noseh Chesed L'Alofim, Noseh Ovam V'Fesha V'Chatov V'Nakeh. These are 13 attributes of kindness. That God is so kind. He's so good. Because that's what we have to be aware of wherever we are, whatever we do. We have to be aware that God gave us that. We have to strive for perfection. And the perfection is not enough of a motivational piece to make us strive for being perfect. It's not enough for us to motivate us to be perfect, to be holy all the time. So God made another gift to man, and we're to show gratitude for everything that was created. Everything that was created, He showed gratitude to man, and therefore man earned happiness, and because he was aware that there's a God, because there's so many different things out there that lead us astray, right? So, but he is so kind. So why does the good people suffer? Because after I gave you the 13 attributes of kindness, the Bible, our Torah, tells us that I will be kind to whom I will be kind, and I will show mercy to whom I will show mercy. So even though they are good and deserve something good, God has the final say, and will go against the basic sum total. And seemingly He's good, but God goes back to many generations before He makes His final determination, and the grandparents and great-grandparents are involved in the matter, because we have a blanket type of good fortune and a blanket type of bad fortune, which covers the good, covers the entire populace. Because when Moshe came down from the mountain, right? When he received the Torah, he said, he was given a test. He says, if you do not forgive these people, erase me from your book. Erase me from your book. That's in Exodus chapter 32, 32:13, the end of that chapter 32, and that's in chapter 32 in Exodus. That erased me from your book. So there is a ledger, right? There is a ledger that's kept, but we don't know the final total, because other things are taken into consideration. Because over there in chapter 32, He says, I will not destroy them, but I will take it under consideration when I make my final accounting. I will take it into consideration. In other words, bowing to this, dancing around this idol, they said, listen, I won't put all the punishments now, retributions, but I will take it into consideration when I make my final determination on that person, whether he gets to the soul world that we all strive for. And it says over there in chapter 32, 35, it says, it says, and then He let out a plague against the people. What do you mean a plague? He already, in chapter 32, those that worshipped the cow were destroyed. Were destroyed. What does it mean? Why do you have a plague? Because those are the people that sat on the fence, saw things going on, and they didn't do anything. They sat on the fence, and their job is to fight evil as a Jew, to stand up to all of these inequalities that are being chosen, that are being perpetrated against us. We're not to stand on the sideline. We're not to stand on the sideline. Now, let me show you, and also over there in chapter 33, it says 33, I think about 18, it says over there that I'll make you distinct amongst other nations, because Moses wanted the Jewish people to be led by God personally. And God said there will be repercussions if they transgress, and we see what happened when the Jews transgress. It's our duty to go out there and to educate, to go out there and educate, because we're all brothers, we're all responsible for each other. That's in Deuteronomy 29:28, chapter 29:28. I will take care of the secret transgressions that are done of transgressions, but you and your son are to carry out the Torah to the populace. Now, there is a very interesting subject that these three gentlemen, Jewish by birth, but atheists, and if they had only looked into the Bible, they would have not gone astray. And what I mean is, look, in the Pasha Lech Lecha, in Exodus chapter 12, right? Exodus chapter 12, it says, Lech Lecha la'artzecha. It says, go out from your land. And we take this first gentleman, march, right? What did he say? He said, the people are going after riches and the land, and we have to make that available to all. And the Torah says, Lech lecha me'artzecha, go out from your land. God is telling Abraham he's going to start a Jewish way of life, Judaism. It says, go out from your land. The land I will show you. Lech lecha, go out, me'artzecha, from your land, u'meladecha, from your birthplace. Now, if Spinoza, another atheist, if he had seen that, because he's been under the assumption that man has an environment that is all-encompassing, observant individuals, and through genetics and through the environment of his home and community, he is made to follow and live in that lifestyle. But he doesn't realize the Torah says, go out from from your birthplace, That's in chapter 12, verse 1. Lech lecha me'artzecha, for Marx, meladecha, for Spinoza, and mibeis avicha, from your father's home. Why? Because Freud said that the problem with man is that he's involved with his family, and his father places guilt complexes on him, and therefore this is what brings him down. And he has to get rid of these complexes that he picked up at youth. Here, the Torah tells us, if he would only bring back these words to these gentlemen, he said, Lech lecha, go out, me'artzecha, from your land, march, miladtecha, from your birthplace, u'mibeis avicha, from your father's house. That's for Freud. They won't have any complex. Okay, that's something interesting. And, you know, it's very interesting to know that, these are informations that we have to work on and learn them themselves. Because I find that many of these yeshiva day school graduates don't come out with anything substantial other than, you know, turn off the light and on Shabbos, before Shabbos, and all these fundamental subjects which are good, which a Hasidic world enjoys. But we have to go further. We have to have a self, what is it called? A self-taught learning center. Self-taught learning center. And it's very simple. All you have to do is to get the school, the synagogue, to let us have a space. How do you like that? I don't have that. Let us have a space, and we'll bring the people in, and there won't be any teachers. The books are your teachers. The books are your teachers. That is it. And we propose basically four books, and they are a synopsis of the Torah and Behold the People, basic ideology, right? Basic ideology, and learning the Talmud. Oh, we got to get Talmud time, right? Self-taught learning center, self-taught learning centers. Novus. We got 3 books for you. Summary of the Torah and Behold the People, basic ideology, and linear English Talmud. You do the work. And I find out that these graduates of high schools, of yeshivas, and even when they come back from Israel, there's nobody doing the work except the rabbi. He's speaking and speaking and speaking. And you got to do the work. You have to get soul food. Let me give you an example of soul food. You know, and this is being recorded on November the 14th, 2022. Yeah, so that's when it's being recorded. And basically, there is the Parshat of Vayero. God appeared to the people, to Abraham, who was recuperating from the bris milah, and what happened was he was emulating God. It says over there in Deuteronomy chapter 28:9. Yeah, so over there in 28:9 it says you should walk in the ways of God. So how is Abraham in the beginning of chapter 12 in Exodus running after guests, inviting them to his home. And by doing so, he's emulating God. Because God created the world and he let it be open to all the inhabitants. They can live and enjoy his creations. There's food for everything. Satisfies every living creature. And that's what Abraham did. He opened up his house. Just like God opened up planet Earth, Abraham opened up his home for strangers to enjoy. And that's soul food. That's food for the soul. But you have to you have to work on it. And there's people out there, I know, that are listening and thinking, but not getting involved, like Exodus 32:35. They're just sitting on the fence. When I need help to start these self-taught Torah learning centers, I need a place where we can advertise, where we can bring people in, and they do the work. They do the work. We'll supply them with the books so they can bring their own books if they're not a novice. Because most of us are novice. They just push you on through on graduation time. That's what they spend their time on, graduating, procession, marching down the aisle, collation, marching in the streets for good causes. That's not your time. Or playing basketball. Any school day school, Jewish day school, that has interscholastic basketball teams that compete with other teams, are just wasteful. Time wasteful. It's money wasteful. With fancy uniforms, practice sessions, and this time should be spent working with individuals who did not succeed in a good way of learning their lessons, because they got to review it, and they may have fallen behind. But everybody gets promoted. Everybody gets promoted. There shouldn't be anything like promotion. Everyone gets promoted, but they need more instructors to help those get along that are late starters. I can tell you of a case where this guy is the head of a big firm in dealing with futures and derivatives and you name it, and it's smart, a very intelligent guy. And he in the second grade, they wanted to keep him behind because he wasn't doing well. It's a psychological thing to keep them behind. They have to have tutors. Now, those people that are sitting on the fence. I was in a store. I was in getting a haircut, and every time I go there to Ruvain's, people recognize me. They recognize my voice. And one guy took out a cell phone and they recorded me saying some Divrei Torah. But look, that's not enough. You got to do the work. You have to help me. You want to help me? Then call the number here on the screen, right? And leave a message. If I'm not here, I'll get back to you, God willing, and we'll try to find a place, and once we find a place, we have to advertise the PR to get the people to come down. Now, and we want to congratulate the 32 seats that were taken by religious people, the Shas party, the Agudas Yisrael, and Smotrich's religious Zionists, and to stop this ridiculous slaughter one by one every week. There's another one or two being killed, stabbed, murdered by these goyim, with the blessing of the Americans, and that's who he has the Jewish puppets, Biden. That's all he wants. That's his main interest in the world, is to take that country of Israel and divide it up and give it to somebody else, because he is just jealous, and he can't stand where the 1 billion Christians and 1 billion Muslims are on the outside, and little Judaism, with the help of God, took the land that was rightfully theirs and live in it, and producing it. And who are his puppets? He has, he comes over to the country, and he's like he's president of the country. He comes, he invites himself. Who needs him? Who needs him to come here? He comes out, and then he puts a flag. That's what we should do. He takes a flag, and when he's in Jerusalem, he takes down the American flag on his limousine, and he puts on a Palestinian flag, right? A Palestinian flag. And like, this is not yours, Israel. It's such a yes, such an impolite, imbecile. I mean, today he was in Cambodia, so he thanked the host, Colombia. He got the wrong country mixed up. But no, all he knows, he hates Israel. And instead of worrying about Israel, where Israel was awarded to the Jewish people and its boundaries by God in the Holy Bible that he believes in too, let him worry about the Americans, where they took the land from them. Give it back. This fellow, Knight, who are his puppets? The State Department, the Secretary of State is, what's his name? Blinken, a Jew, Jewish parents. He does the dirty work. He's the puppet. And who is the Ambassador Nides, N-I-D-E-S, or N-I-D-E-S. And he says, we want the Jewish state to be made a democracy with its Jewish flavor and demographics, and that's why we want to have half of the state being Jewish, entirely Jewish, and half the state being Arab. So that's his good ideas that he has. That's friends like the Americans we don't need. He don't need. And he'll put, before the election, the State Department came out, and said, oh, how great our bond is with Israel. He's got a knife stuck in the back of the Jewish people, and he says how great the Jewish people are. And now the day after the election, he's putting the whole thing back into perspective and seeing that the Jews get kicked out. And it's all because we're not doing our part of keeping the Torah and teaching it. And here, you can call, leave a message. Torah for all. We're going, with God help, going on the radio in the South, one of the states, to give this basic ideology to the people out there. And you don't want to be a fencer. You want to get out there and move. Move, just say your compliments and the great job you're doing. We need help. And here's a telephone number. Here it is right here. Leave a message. There it is. 516-295-4233. Right? 295-4233. Now, we see that our friend Zelensky is doing a great job in driving out the oppressors, the Russians, who have done evil to them. And here he said we're going to have war criminals, war crimes against the Russians for the atrocities that we have all written up and documented against the Russians, occupiers, invaders. But what does he say about his own people, the Jewish people, who lost millions of men, women, and children in his country of Ukraine? Babi Yar, over 50,000 men, women, and children were machine gunned and laid like cordwood, one on top of the other, for 3 nights and days. And who are the perpetrators? That's your people, your Ukrainians. They spoke Ukrainian, and they dressed up in German uniforms. It's all documented. Why not go after the war crimes with them? What are the Jewish people? Chopped liver? Yeah, you're such a big righteous person, your brothers and sisters were killed. Why not go after those murderers in your own home that killed thousands of innocent Jews? Talk about war crimes. Well, they're all dead. That's all right. I want them tried in absentia. What about the Einsatzgruppe 4? The 700 cockroaches that went around and murdering, killing men, women, and children. You have the evidence. The evidence is there. Or are you taking up war crimes? War crimes against the Jewish people. What is that? That's Zelensky. Right, that's Zelensky. Oh, we have to remember, it's Talmud time. It's time for Talmud. We love our Talmud. And that's what we want to... But where is our Talmud? We love our Talmud. We learn the Torah. Where is our Talmud? And we got the first 3 words. That's what we're doing. The first 3 words of the Talmud. And it says of brachos. And I know it was here. Go figure it out. Go figure. It says, oh, here we go. It's Talmud time. It's time for Talmud time. Everything's in English. And you can learn it, and you can love it, and you'll enjoy it. Torah Olam Haba is a good zach. Learning Torah is a better zach. Yeah, so that's what we have to do. You have to, the first 3 words. Me'amosai korana Shema. From when to when do we learn the Shema Yisrael prayer? In the evening. Not the morning, we say evening and morning. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. One God do we have, without form of any sort. And we want to know the first words. We only did 3 words. I'm talking in Aramaic and in English. It says, from when to when do we read the Shema Yisrael prayer of the evening? I mean, you can read the Shema Yisrael prayer all day long, but when do you get credit for it? You get credit for it. That's the question. Everything's questions and answers. And the answer is from the time from the time that the Kohanim enter to eat their truma. Well, listen, I want to know what time. I'm going to tell me a story. It's things by the way. It's things by the way. In other words, you're going to learn other things. From the time of the Kohanim, but the Kohanim, it didn't go into detail, but we on a sideline, it tells us that what happened was that the Kohanim were Tomei. And they were not to be with the main body of the people until they went to the mikveh in the evening. and then they then they can officiate and they can eat their holy food, truma. There's a whole, we're learning a lot. Just from when to when we say the Shema Yisrael in the evening, from the time the Kohanim enter to eat their truma. What is truma? And whatever you grow, whatever you do, you have to give 2% to the Kohen, because he works in the temple offering offerings for transgressions, and to show that we want to offer our entire body, our limbs and our soul and our mind and everything to Hashem, because we're aware of Him. That's what we have to do, become aware of Hashem. Hashem is strong. Yeah. So. Mishah she'kohanim, from the time the Kohanim nichnosim, enter to eat their truma, from the time they enter to eat their truma. So we learn about truma, and that he gets 2% each year in a 7-year cycle, and then after the truma there's Meiser Rishon, and 10% goes to the Levi, and Meiser Sheni, 10%. Say he has apples, 100 bushels, so 10%. He takes those apples to Jerusalem and all Haregel, and then 3 times a year, right? He brings them and eats them and has a party with all his friends, all the Jewish people together. And then we have the 3rd and the 6th year, instead of it going to Yerushalayim, we give it to the poor people, and we take care of the poor people, because we're like we say every day, there should be no limit to the corners of your field. The pay, the shecho, dropped ears of corn and harvesting should belong to the poor. So there's all kinds of ways we take care of the poor. So again, they're going to put the pressure on Israel. Here, he says, Nides, Nides. He says, the ambassador to Israel, Nides. He says, we want to ensure that Israel is a Jewish state, and that it is a democratic state, and that's why we want to divide it. I tell him, let him divide the country of America that they stole from the indigenous Indians, and make a separate state. Give them a separate state. That's what you should be worrying about. You have no right to talk about the land of Israel. You're an ambassador to the United States, and that means you're to take care. Charity begins at home, and give those Indians that you massacred and you stole. There's many dozens of tribes there that you stole their land from. Give it back to them. Don't worry about the Jewish people. Worry about your own house. That's what I want to give Ambassador Nides and the Secretary of State, another Jew, Blinken, Anthony Blinken. And this is our land that was promised to us by God, and that's what we have to remember. Now the Pew study, 2 out of 3, they're not 2 out of 3 are not observant when graduates. 2 out of 3. That's a Pew study. Oh, but we see in the paper they're dancing, and all the little students, all the little devils are dancing and having a beautiful time. But they're marching, they're graduating, they're having parties, they're killing time. They're doing all kinds of things that instead of learning, instead of working. Who likes to? It's hard work. Who wants to work hard? Nobody wants to work hard, especially the teachers. But they gotta let the students talk and work, so that they can be good graduates and work, so that they will imbibe and understand. So So that's all that's all there is to say. I mean, there is much more to talk about. We have to become aware that there is a God, and every day we see purposefulness of the creations, that they all have a job, and our job is to show gratitude for all the things that have been given us, that we can exist in this beautiful world, and give thanks and become aware that there is a God. Becomes aware that there is a God. To say blessings, to show gratitude. The two ways. The first is to the first way is to strive for perfection, because that's what the tree of life in Adam. We were taken out of the tree. We were taken out of the garden, and now we have to contend with temptation. In addition to the bad part of our body, which wants physical needs, but we have to contend with temptation in addition. And so that's what we have to do. He says over there in Deuteronomy chapter 8 verse 1, it says, do all the commandments and you shall live. Do all the commandments and you shall live. 8:2, I afflicted you and tested you to see what is in your mind. Heart equals mind. To see if you kept the commandments or not. See if you're aware of God throughout your life. See if you kept the commandments or not. So that's our job, to get to the soul world, and we have to use our resources to ensure the soul gets to its proper place. Now we're chosen. We're a chosen people. In chapter 7, in Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 6, it says over there, "You are holy, and I have chosen you as a treasured people from all the peoples on the face of the earth." I have chosen you as a treasured people from all the people on the face of the earth. And it continues, not because you are a large nation. As a matter of fact, you're the smallest nation, because we're the only ones that believe in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Not because you're a large nation, because you're the smallest nation. And because God made a covenant with your forefathers, and He upholds that covenant. And number two, because He loves the Jewish people. He loves the Jewish people. In Deuteronomy chapter 23:6, and for God did not listen to Balaam when he wanted to curse the Jews, but he wanted to let the Jews live, because God loved them. Remember chapter 10 verse 15, to God belongs the heavens and all that there is therein, the earth all that there is therein, but only in your forefathers did He delight to love them, to choose your offspring, their progeny, as of this day that you hear these words. God does not annul a covenant. God will not annul a covenant. He tested you and afflicted you to see whether you kept the commandments, directives, and the ordinances. And that's what it says. And that's what it says after we got the Ten Commandments. At Mount Sinai was the first time that we got the covenant. It was made between the people. And then in Deuteronomy chapter 29:13, a second covenant was made with the people. And those people that were gathered in front, that passed by, together with the imprecations. That's what it says, 29:13. Together with the imprecations, then the curses. And those that are not standing with us, that are future generations, are obligated to keep the sign of the covenant, to keep the sign being the bris milah. And with that we carry on that tradition. And it says over there in 29:64 in Deuteronomy, with these words, I seal a covenant with you besides the covenant I made with you at Horeb. Horeb is the vicinity of of Mount Sinai. That's Horeb again. With these words, chapter 29, and after they pass through chapter 29:13, with these words, I seal a covenant with you and your offspring besides the covenant that I made with you at Horeb. That's 29:64. Look, those that are sitting on a fence, contact me. Leave a message. With those words, I wish you all the best God send.